ഒരു വെബ്കംപൈനിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നത്.
Hi Venus. Hi Achyut.
Hello,
Hi
sir.
Kiran.
Hi, Prasad.
Hey Mazakir.
Hi,
Right, all yours, Roshni.
Yes. Okay.
Hi Venus. Hi Achyut.
All right.
Hi Kiran.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
So while Roshni is getting ready, I do want to talk about one thing, which is why, I am particularly excited about Varun's presentation today. Because, and I've seen this happen many, many times. Generally, we as designers, we kind of think about, hey, I'm going to solve this problem interestingly. I'm going to come up with this interesting solution, blah, blah, blah. And at some point in our lives, we get to thinking like, okay, I've thought about so many cool things. I think I can be an entrepreneur as well. Okay. I can set this up as a business and kind of launch my own products. Okay. Now, what most people realize, or most designers realize after setting up or building their first product from the ground up, okay, is that launching the product requires many, many different types of information and knowledge. Okay. Before that, our realization is always like, what we believe is, I'm designing the product, so it's going to work no matter what. It's a great product. Okay. But practically launching it requires a lot of different disciplines to work with each other to make it happen. Okay. And there is also a huge pressure because you're the entrepreneur, you're also thinking about revenue. How do I make my money? How do I get the number of downloads? So that is also pressure that is being put on you. Traditionally, that's not something you worry about when you're working in a company. But when you do it on your own, that's also something that you need to think about. So, with Varun, I think Varun is going to be talking about and sharing is not just his design experience, but really the entrepreneurial part and how they interact with each other as you're designing a product and you are the entrepreneur as well. So with that, I'm super excited to introduce Varun. But yeah, go ahead, Roshni.
Okay. So hello and welcome to the 101st Friday Learning Session. Like Prasad said, I think many of us dream of creating something unique, of starting something that is our own venture, our own business. And today we have Varun with us, who took that leap. So Varun joined Collej's third intensive batch. His app, AudioCraft, is that recently launched on the Play Store, offers a wide range of features for music lovers. He's done YouTube covers. He was part of an experimental music band that performed for 5 years. He's also done playback singing for a film. Additionally, Varun is also the co-founder and head of UX and product at Your Tribe. In tonight's session, Varun will dive into how UX designers can pave the way for business success. He'll share his own journey where his UX expertise played a crucial role in solving a personal music learning challenge, eventually leading to the birth of AudioCraft. Later, we'll open this forum for questions. For those wanting to learn more about steering business success through design, and for those of you with dreams of entrepreneurship, I hope you gain insights, ask questions, and find that confidence to take the next bold step in your journey. With that said, I'd like to invite Varun to start the session today.
Thank you, Roshni. Thank you, Prasad. Really grateful to be here, to be presenting this session. I never thought I could, even complete this. I never thought I could become like I always wanted to become, but I never thought that would happen. Anyway, grateful about everything that happened. Let me share my screen. Is it visible? Is it readable enough? Do you want to?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm going to talk about predominantly only about this app today, in terms of what is the source of idea, and then how we built this app and how it is launched, and my learnings and takeaways from it. So solving musicians and music enthusiasts problem through design is what we have done here. Let me get to the next screen. A brief about me: I've got about 12 plus years experience in design, and like Roshni mentioned, I'm also a singer and a musician. I'm like, right now it is parked a bit. So it has been on and off always with respect to music, but I'll share a bit more about it a little later. So currently, I'm working as a co-founder and head of product and UX in Your Tribe, which is like a recruitment startup recruitment. We're building a tool for career site for startups to showcase themselves better online, to sell themselves online better, uh, so that people would like to join them. So predominantly on that, we're working on a product right now. First thing, I just want to thank the community, because this is if not for this community, I would probably dream would have just been a dream. I would have not probably taken, or I would have taken and probably messed up a lot, and then would have somehow arrived onto something, but not in the way that that things happen today. A bit of a timeline about me. So I started working as a web designer in 2011, and then until 2015, I was working as a web designer. And they were like it's a very small company, and I think they used to buy Smashing magazine books uh, back in time. So I was when I had free time, I used to read those books, and I read a book about form design long time back. And then I was like, what is this? I think it's not about, I thought there's something more to design, but I thought, okay, this is for somebody else, probably for developers or something. And then I parked it, but it just stuck with me over time. And then somehow I was not happy. I was just moving. 2015. There was one platform called Elance. I was working. I mean, full time as a freelancer. I just moved from full time job to full time freelancing, and apparently within probably 6 months, things were very. I mean, I was almost like a top rated designer there, and at some point, I think Elance tried to move and collaborate with some other platform, and then it became Upwork today. So I had about 10, 15 clients, regular clients. Somehow I could not find them after that shift happened. And I almost gave up. Things started to break. And then one of my client actually offered me a job, which is like the US company, full-time role. And long before this lockdown time, I was working as a remote employee all alone in my own lockdown, handling all my stress and all that by myself, not realizing what I was going through mentally. And I realize how difficult it is to work from home without anybody else. It's much difficult. Probably everybody might be aware of it right now. So, and then after that, in 2020, I decided to start my own firm with a thought. Basically, I was, one of my friend was an HR, and then he had a lot of network, and I was actually recommending a couple of my friends' company to him to get some projects or something. So he had within to share his within his network, and it was like he constantly pushed back, saying that I won't do this, I won't do this. I was like asking, why are you not doing it? And he said, why don't you start your own firm, and then I do that. You have all the potential, just start it. And somehow people in TED talks say things, right? The one small thought changed my life or whatever. So that night I was just thinking about this thought, and then I was like, should I? Okay, let me try that. I think somehow it also stuck with me. Until then, I was in the extreme opposite direction that I should never get into business. It's not my thing. So I started learning, trying to gather information about how things, how to have such business mindset. Literally, I was just watching videos, reading books about business and all that for the next 3 months, trying to have understand what that is all about. And then somehow in that journey, I was like not very successful in terms of bringing out leads. I was doing web design and branding and all that. So I decided, I mean, like the thought still was there when I said about the Smashing Magazine book form and all that. So I thought there's much more to design than what I do. I realized at that point, and then I was seeking for help from all different directions. Finally, I reached out to Saurabh. Uh, he was the sweetest person on earth at that point of time for me because he was like, "Let's have a conversation. No problem." I said, "I want." I'm literally struggling. And Prasad might be aware of it. When the first conversation we had, I was literally panicking and emailing him. So that happened, and then I joined the intensive batch. And fast forward, things changed. I joined as a product designer at Your Tribe, and then the founder gave me a status as a co-founder and head of product and UX. And again in 2023, I also Prasad and Saurabh and other mentors have also offered me a mentorship role in college as well. So yeah, things started changing. I was just still, and at that point, 2000, once I did my intensive program and all that, I was just still thinking about this entrepreneurship and all that. I was having five different ideas, and I was thinking, okay, what should I do? Should I do now or should I do it later? All those things were like thinking. I had all those confusions back then. So somehow I felt like there's no better way to learn things rather than getting into action. So just jump. I just jumped into it. So right now, this is what I'm doing right now. I just found this app, and then I'm also consulting for other startups with respect to UX. So, like I said, this entrepreneurial journey, I was thinking about what should I do, and really, am I cut out for it? Sometimes you're not ready for it, right? So this quote really changed. This is the state of mind that I had when I had the shift. To achieve a goal you have never achieved, you need to change into a person you have never been before. This is very true for me because I was literally in the opposite direction. All of my friends wanted to, get into business, and I was like, no, 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 no. I want to work somewhere, a humble, job and all that, and then just carry on. So this changed, and then when I started watching entrepreneurial, a lot of videos, a lot of founders spoke about, one thing kept circling back again and again, which was we started this company. I had 20 different startups. Everything failed. I was just keep on trying in, and then one idea succeeded, and then suddenly all you require is one idea. So this was like, it made me think, why does somebody have to fail so many times to get to one success, right? So and then my right now, after having probably, I don't know if I can say this, a bit of maturity in terms of how UX is, how you can approach problems, all these things, my perspective has changed completely. So I was just thinking, why does somebody have to fail 20 times to succeed one? Probably the ratio could be three times failing or one, or it could be one versus one as well. So UX designers have that are in the best position to do that, to try out that you have all that skill, but then there are other aspects of the business as well, right? So that has to be definitely learned. uh, so uh, by the way, this is me. um, when I was being a musician myself, I was I quit my performing band with like about 5 years, and then I started learning Carnatic music, traditional music, and I was learning through online. Everything was happening online, so it was very difficult for me to get into the learning mode where I have to practice every week, right? So I have to listen to the recording and practice. It was nerve-wracking in terms of you are into multiple things and you have to have, dedicate your time to, it's a lot of work in terms of learning that particular thing. So this was actually working, in back of my mind. And then I had five other ideas to think about. And I thought to myself, what is the best way? How can I, which idea should I take it further, to try it out? I was having this thought, and then somehow I felt like, who else will have this advantage of being a musician and then being a UX designer? But let me solve this UX problem for musicians who are struggling. Like, probably there are much more efficient ways to learn through online learning, recording through recordings. So I thought to take up this particular problem, which is the typically music students dedicate significant amount of time to listen to recordings, because it's a lot of work. Sometimes it'll be 1.5 hours, 2 hour session. So, and then as practice sessions, right? So it requires an active involvement as well. You have to go back to the recording every time. You don't know which section, which part of the recording has you need to listen to. It's very personalized, right? So you need to just seek back. Yes, you have bookmarks, but still all those things are sometimes, most people don't use the bookmarks effectively as well. Even bookmarks are just for like one's pointer, right? So then they're like, you need to still actively involve with the application to get the recording to the learning to happen. So, and then it's a longer thing, and then it's all you have to seek back and forth. All these are like problems that any musician or like any learners, music learners would face when what if they are like using a desktop tool, and then if they are traveling, what is the application that they use? How can I make it more effective with respect to learning effectively through the audio recording? And is there already a AI tool which can solve this problem? I was just seeking for it, and then I realized, and then these are my validations as well in terms of, okay, if AI can already solve this problem, why should I even build it? So I was just checking for that. And then I felt like, I don't think AI can solve this particular problem because it's very personalized. You cannot, it's not like summarizing one particular voice over the other. And then, it's, it depends on the individual in terms of which part of the recording they wanted to listen to. So, and then the idea became stronger, and then we started I started my research with respect to speaking with fellow musicians, music learners from beginning to intermediate to pro levels, in terms of what kind of platforms do they use to learn, music, especially the recording and all that. How do they learn through online? So, and then most of them said YouTube, and then some of them said Audacity, which is like a desktop application and all that. So, and there was one particular app which was doing a bit of work, but still it had its own issues. So I think pro level learners, what I found was pro level learners have their own way of doing it. They can learn from anywhere and everywhere. So it's but then the intermediate and basic level students had a lot of challenges with respect to spending more time and efforts and not having the right tool to work with the recordings and all that. So, and then with that, I was just looking at other competitors which is there in the market in the app world. What do they do, and does anybody solve this particular problem? And I was just kept on, the more apps that I see, this more or less it's all the same thing, and it's also not. There could be much more ways to improve the usability of that. Whatever the editing features that they have, it's all primarily editing, but they don't have. They again if they have to be a musician, probably to even think about this problem exists, and then they have to solve something around that. So, and then I was looking at it, and then I started ideating. We started ideating with that particular one thing, where like how can we improve the learning for that recording thing effectively. So we just ideated pencil sketch, and then literally did a lot of wireframe, literally prototype everything, that one particular feature, and see, because it looks somehow when we ideated, we realize it's just getting complicated. And like when we tested it out, for every prototype, we actually gave it to different music learners in different levels. They tested it out and asked them to, okay, what if you have this recording, and what do you do, when you have this recording and all that. So based on how they interacted with it, and then we kept on ideating again and again with just one particular feature, this particular problem we wanted to solve, and then we were just ideating on that. We were not happy. uh, I was not happy because there could be much more ways to do it. It took us around 3 months to just do this. Finally we arrived at one particular thing which we were happy about, and then uh, which is this, right? I'll probably talk about this in a bit. Probably Saurabh will help me with respect to demoing in terms of how this particular thing works. But this is what we have arrived. Initially it started, when we had this, this particular problem. It looked complicated. The idea is to keep it as simple as it is for anybody to just start working with it, and then there shouldn't be any, help documentation required to get to use this application. So that's the idea. So this, we have done it. We have arrived. We were happy about it, and then that's when my debut entrepreneurial journey started to creep in. So I was not thinking much about business aspect of it, and then I was just thinking about how do I mean, this is a very specialized, I'm solving for a specialized audience. I'm not looking at monetizing and how, I'm not thinking about revenue at that point of time. So, and then downloads, yes, downloads plays a crucial role, but then after a point it doesn't make sense, because after when you download it, if there is no active users, it doesn't make sense. So again, it's when I'm doing it for a specific kind of audience, it's the market is probably much less, the chances of success is probably slim. So, and then I was just thinking about how can I enhance the user retention, and how can I expand my personas to solve the problem for different personas, different kinds of needs for audio editing within the space of audio editing. Then I was just looking at talking to dancers, and in terms of what do they do, what kind of, they have this dance numbers performance and all that happening. So what kind of tools that they use and all that. So yeah, I think we figured it out, and then we ideated. Long story short, I just want to get to the things that we have done. So based on what we did, we ideated, and then we have arrived, tried to, predominant of the apps have this cut, omit, split, and all these basic functionalities. But then the effectiveness and the usability of it was still a struggle. I thought, why not? Should I, I can expand my personas as well, and I can reach much more bigger audience within the, within the market, and it gives us a little more edge in terms of, if this is much more easy and usable, probably more people will, word of mouth, more people will probably convert over time, and then things might start, get bigger. So that's when we added all these things. One is we added all these functionalities and tried to, again, we worked around to ideate for the next 2-3 months for these things, and in terms of how can we make this better, the usability of these functionalities better. Again, this is, like I said, this is for larger audience. And then the other thing which I did, which we did, is in terms of the user retention. So it's at the end of the day, it's a utility app. People use it, once the task is done, they'll just go away from the app. So there's no way I can keep them within the app. So that's when, after ideating, we've arrived this particular thing where all these segments that you do. So the segments that we are doing, right? So I'll probably it'll have much more context when Saurabh shows that particular thing. So when you segment a larger audio file and then into chunks and listen to it. So there's one option is, until then we were like having this export option. Once they export, it's all done. That's all. So And then for retention, we introduced this particular thing for which is the work file, where it doesn't take extra space in your internal storage. It acts as a metadata, and then you still have the all the segments that you've created in your mobile app itself, so that again they'll have to think twice to delete the app and then probably move away from the app. So because all their hard work is already done. So once if you once do it, it'll always be there unless and until you delete the application. So that is we did that so that they don't it doesn't also take space, and then they don't have to export all these files. They just can use this application to listen to the segments and then keep coming back to the platform is the idea. So we did this, and then we added for the merge as well. So typically when you merge a lot of songs, and then somebody at the after you export, somebody says, "Well, hey, can you add this one small track between the eighth and ninth track?" They have to do everything again. So we did these work files for the segment and merge alone, so that they can keep coming back to the platform, and we can probably the retention is potentially higher in terms of again they'll probably think a lot of times to to delete this application. That's the intention. And then the other thing is, okay, let's what if they are not like an advanced music students, and if we are like not doing it for them, and if like a music enthusiast is coming and using the tools, for them we are not doing all these retention, right? So how can we make retention for them? And then we introduced placed playlist there itself. So wherever they whatever they edit here, they can just put it as a playlist and then listen to it right here. So these are the these things came later, which is which is why that thinking about what Prasad addressed this initially, right? In terms of solving problems is one thing. It's fancy. It's that could be exciting, and then we'll be proud about what we have done. But then at the end of the day, thinking about business is having this business mindset. It's very different. And I thought I was preparing for it. When I got into this, I faced a lot of challenges with respect to that. And you know that's how I'm slowly getting there in terms of building that mindset of building a business part of it. So the results so far is has been fascinating in people's call and say that right now we are reaching out, since it's very new right now. I can't talk much about in terms of what is the numbers that we are talking about in terms of the reach and all that. Probably you'll have a session again 6 months later or so to talk about that and what do we optimize based on the feedback. So this is the feedback that we have received based on the musicians, and I actually reached out to a lot of musicians to share with their students so that they can get benefited out of it. And so far, the feedback has been phenomenal in terms of all these things that we envision to do happen is already there. So there is an alignment with respect to what we envision and what has been achieved. Yeah. So how did my experience as a UX designer contribute to my leadership skills? So it's kind of funny because I thought I had all the skills to get into it, but then slowly things started changing, and it's very interesting as well when I dug into that particular process as an entrepreneur. So sometimes I get convinced with respect to empathy and understanding about the user is given. Like any UX designer has to have these things. And then the what this community taught me is to have this systematic approach to solving a problem that actually helped me solve this particular problem in a much more effective way. And I'm really happy about how it has come along. But the part which I learned through this course is probably as an entrepreneur, and there's like a mix of, there's always a flip when we make decisions as an entrepreneur and as a UX designer. Sometimes you get ideate a lot, and then you're like, somehow you might feel happy about what you have got achieved based on the progress and then stop at some point, right? So we literally kept pushing it further and further and further to see how else, how far can we go with respect to solving this. That thought actually came from a UX designer mindset and also the entrepreneur mindset as well. So not just to get, be happy with, probably if I'm just an entrepreneur, probably I'll be at some point I would have said, okay, this is good enough for this version. We'll send it to production and see how it is, and then we'll decide. So there was like a constant flip happening throughout that journey. And then the again the conflict resolution. This is also interesting when I was working with collaborating with other designers for this, and also with the engineers. We had a lot of conflicts. Typically it happens, right? Anything when we are building, there's a lot of conflicts that happen. How do you handle that? It's that also helped me as a UX designer, helped me in terms of resolving it, to talk objectively about and what we are trying to build and what is your idea, and literally go far with the other idea, and then see what are the pros and cons, and literally thinking about having an open mind to have this discussion. That actually helped a lot in terms of, otherwise if I was not a UX designer, probably I would have not, that could have, I don't think it could have gone in multiple ways. I don't know, it depends on the personality as well. But this particular process has helped me a lot in terms of this conflict resolution and management. And with respect to business mindset, right, these are again slowly I started developing these things. I'm still developing. I over time I started getting this having this mindset of adapting to things quickly and moving, pivoting quickly. That's the mindset that we need to have. And then I started getting these things where, slowly it started to creep in, to have to get this mindset. But I mean, as a UX designer, you might not have this thing, and then only when you build something from ground up, you might have to, based on the situation, you have to prioritize and make decisions, hard decisions here and there. We started with something else, and then, literally it has evolved into something. So it requires a lot of pivoting as well, rather than not just sticking with what we believe in the initial phase. And then, you know, the other thing which we so far, I mean, the change in shift is how can we, not only guide the team, but also understand the evolving needs of the musician and enthusiast in the digital space, which is entrepreneurial journey. I would say it's very different. It's not one word coin for every kind of business, right? So I think in the mobile app space, it's slightly different with respect to having this being an entrepreneur in the mobile space. And then you don't need to do probably, and if you solve the problem really well, there could be things can go with word of mouth, and then suddenly you might see a lot of rise in terms of the downloads and the users. That suddenly it might have a dip. You don't know. There are things which can be. It's very agile. It just, some certain things are out of your control in this space. So the best part about it is having this review system where people just tell about, oh, this could be done better and this could be done better, or this thing works well and this thing. So this is like constant feedback, which is in the mobile app space is really helpful for us to think further in terms of how can we make this better and better every time with every release. So, and this is the learning that I've got as a leader. We need to strive to envision the future of music editing technology and innovate towards that vision. So this is something which which has evolved through in the course of what we have built so far. To give an example, initially like I said, like Prasad said, right, like when we started, I was so pumped up to solving that one particular problem, and then now it has turned into a different mindset where how do I build an user-friendly platform that empowers the users of all levels to create, edit, and optimize the audio on the go, all things audio on the was the, probably the vision that we have right now, so that, that's the mindset which has been developed based on how we started and through this journey. And then the things that we have to check, as entrepreneurs, in terms of how can we make it more relevant, and stay relevant and competitive in the app world. Again, this is requires an active listening of feedback, users feedback, and in the needs and within the space, and prioritizing. Again, all these prioritization you need to have, that really helps as a UX designer. That, this, I'm just flipping here and there because that's the flip literally I had whenever I made any decision that that came all the way. And then I'm already speaking with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs in the mobile space, and also in the other space, to understand, because it's a very, it like how you learn certain things. Like, you need to listen to it, you need to learn by yourself, you need to speak to others. The same things involved here as well. I'm speaking to other founders in terms of how they strategize, to get to their products to success, is what I'm learning from, talking with other founders as well. Gratitude to my co-founder, and Kavin Babu, who was also part of College. He's the lead designer, and then all my fellow mentors and designers who has helped me with this until the release and beyond that. Thanks, pretty much. That's pretty much. And if Saurabh can probably share his screen to show the specific functionality, and then I can.
Sure, I can do it now.
Yeah, I'll talk about it, and then once this is done, probably we are open for questions. Oops. So the thing which Saurabh is going to show you is about the segments which we initially tried to solve. So when you select a song, so it's a long format. So I asked him to give an example of a long audio recording. So there are three actions. One is, it's the start. Basically, at which point you want to mark that segment, which point you want to create that segment. And then you can, this is one thing that for some people, if the track is faster, probably you can slow down the pitch. Those things can be happening at any point of time. Pitch and speed, all those things you can play around with it. But then when you click on that, it creates a mark there. And then when you want to end that particular segment for practice, the thing that you wanted to do for practice, I think the waveform is loading because it's longer. It takes probably 6 to. Yeah. So when you end that, it just plays you the audio in loop, that particular segment in loop. So once you confirm, you can play around with the segment in the waveform itself. We can move the segment selection in the waveform itself with the dragger, and also with the seconds. Then once you have done with it, you click on the confirm segment, and then it gets added underneath. So the more segments you create, as you add many segments, and it gets keep on adding. Can you add 3-4 segments quickly, and then? Yeah. So whichever part you can select, any number of segments, any part of it to practice, and then once you're done with it, if you go back to segments, you will have those as a track listed down there. You can rearrange the segments. You can listen to one particular part of it, and you can hide the rest of it. All these things you can still do here. So this is this one particular thing actually made the process much efficient, because once you do it, it'll always be there in your mobile phone as a file. You would never have to do this segmenting again and again. And then all you have to do is just get to this page, open the screen, and then just listen to it. If you want, you can export this particular thing as one segment file, or you can individually export each segments. That is, again, that depends on the user. If they want it, if they want to do it, they can do it. Or all these things are already saved, like I said, as a work file in the app itself, so that it doesn't take up space as well. They don't have to export. They can just keep on listening to it when they come back. Yeah, so if you go to the work files, there is this file which he has created. If you click on that, it will open that all the tracks, all the markers that's there. You can still go back to the file to edit more and add more segments or remove more segments. All these things still can be done, but it'll be always there in your mobile. So after releasing this, so like I said, I did this for music students predominantly, and then I found some interesting use cases as well. So one of my friend is a music composer. I showed this to him. At that time, there was one film director who came in, and then he was like, "Are you guys there?" Oh, okay, okay. So okay, yeah, he was there, and then he said he explored this application. So he was like, "Oh, this is fantastic! I would use this for my the assistant directors who are seeking for to tell stories to the music directors, and in terms of what kind of sounds they want to use this sort of application, which is very helpful for them to have these things as one file. And then they just have to go to the music composer and tell them, I want this thing, this part has to be this way. So that is one use case they said, and then they were like, I'll share with my AD groups and all that. So, and then the other thing is like one interesting thing which we noticed was like one person has told me that they have this one of their parent was having this issue there, like uh, depression sort of an issue. They were like, they have to listen to positive, words every day. So they put up the words. So for these things, you can literally segment and create segment parts of it, and then merge everything into one file, and then just play it to them. That would be really helpful for them, is what they said. And then things, I mean, like this use cases they're like finding a lot of use cases. I'm also getting noticed about these use cases, and happy about it so far. And then there's another thing, which is the merge, which has it's like similar to any other merge, but then here I don't see any other typically in college, students will have, if they have multiple tracks, they have one track might be slow, one track might be in a quick fast pace. So they can edit every single track in different speeds and change the pitch and speed of each track and then merge it. That's what we've done. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Varun. I downloaded it and I'm playing with it, but I'm one of those guys who's like, who can only hear one tone. So it's interesting. So, but any questions, any thoughts, please ask, and then I'd love to share some of my thoughts as well. Go ahead, Pooja.
Hi, Varun.
Hi,
Meeting you after a long time,
yes.
and it was a very powerful session. And definitely, thank you for sharing this application with us. So, is this basically only for the music creators, or what it is exactly for? Like, can we add our own songs and just do
Yeah, so
the
like I
editing
said,
part?
I started it as a UX designer trying to solve one problem, and then now it is for everybody. Anybody who's trying to edit audios, basically cut anything that you would like to do with respect to tweaking audios. You can as soon as you open the app, it shows up all your tracks. You can just search for it and then edit the way you want. So it's for everybody basically.
And
Not
it is available on iOS and Android both.
Not in iOS yet.
Okay.
We are still. I mean, I'm waiting for the response for Play Store, and slowly I thought I can release in next 3 to 6 months in
So,
iOS.
why I asked, because coming from the film background, I have multiple friends who are music directors. So I would, tell them to use it, and probably you might get more use cases.
Yeah, thank you. Please share Play Store.
Yeah, I will. I will. Yes, I will. I will. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Great. Great. Yeah.
Thanks, Varun. Yes, Achut.
Yeah. Hi, Varun. It's actually a long time. Yeah, we got
Yes.
to meet. So this is very interesting, Varun. I have two questions. One with regards to like on a product level, and the other one is on the business level. So the product level, I'll ask first because we are in continuum with what Pooja asked. It's interesting that what problem you have started with, but
Yes.
then maybe there are a lot of use cases where it is being met. I mean, it is sufficing for a lot of use cases. Have you seen that problem itself evolving to a higher level where smaller problems which come under that category are being solved? I just wanted to understand this journey because you started like with a very niche area. Uh,
Right.
but when the solution came out, it is solving many use cases. So do you think that it happens because the problem itself evolved to a higher level, which is solving uh, quite a lot
Yeah.
of other problems?
Yeah. So one thing is, see, I mean, it actually, I was thinking about it back then before even ideating. I knew that there was like many use cases would arrive, but then I was not. See, if I think about all these use cases in the beginning of the when we start ideating, I would probably get diverted. It's my personal thing, I would say. So I don't want to get distracted, and then so we thought about all these things. So this is for even for podcasters, like for podcast creators, right?
Right.
Uh, Actually, we started with few other features, which is voice recorder within the app itself. So probably we're releasing it as a next phase where you can record, and then you can create segments of you can record just without thinking about anything, one full stretch, whatever you wanted to say it, and
Yeah.
then go to the segment, create, go to the segment and create segments, and then that's it, you're done with your podcast, or your session. So those were, I thought about it back then before even starting to solve this problem for musicians, but I knew that there would like a lot of use cases would arise, would solve, with one use case itself, one solution itself. Yeah, but it started as this only thing. But I was just hopeful that things will get better based on automatically solving others. So I saw an interview about who's an actor recently, and then they were like talking about, oh, we record how they discuss the storyline, screenplay, and all that. So how they discuss about it. So they go to they probably book a hotel or something in their office, and they all like chat. 5 people chat in a room with having a recorder in the center of the room,
Right.
and then they talk about it, and then they brainstorm there. So it's a long session, probably 3.5 hour session. So, and then it's very difficult for them to go back to that recording. So that's a thing that they spoke in the interview. And then I was just thinking, okay, what if I have a recorder, which is anyway I plan to do, and then have some sort of a Bluetooth access to tap in when you have like an interesting conversation happening, which creates a bookmark so that you can go back and create a segment without even thinking about seeking back and forth. So that is what we are working on right now.
So if I'm not wrong, if I had understood right, it started with solving a very small problem, maybe a niche,
Yeah.
but currently it solves all use cases where trimming, merging, and
Yes.
different levels of segmentation can
Yes.
happen for a
Yes.
certain media type.
Yes.
Whoever is have the
Anything with respect to audio editing is can be it's addressed within this application. So
and
that's when the business mind started to creep in.
yeah,
I mean, I would be happy with solving one problem, but then happy in the heart, not in the bank. So again, when we're building something, it has to, like I said, we knew that the use cases are, a lot. College students who are like probably in the US, they are attending session, right? So probably they can attend that session. Even Prasad, the sessions that Prasad does, right? There are like initially I had this thing where like he had a lot of things to talk about, and I was not mentally matured enough at that point of time to absorb the things that he has talked. So I wanted to record and probably listen to the things that in a repeat mode so that I get my understanding better. Even
got it.
for that use case, this is helpful. And for college students who are trying to learn something from a professor, that could be helpful. So there are like endless use cases, I would say.
Perfect. So I had another doubt because I heard that it's usually better to start with a niche in business. Maybe I heard it wrong.
Sorry, what is it?
I heard at one point of time, I don't know from whom, supposedly being in a business domain itself, that it's good to select your niche. I might be wrong, but
What do you mean many firms? Sorry, I didn't
I mean,
understand.
like if you start with like if you have a very particular audience that you want to
Yeah,
cater to,
yeah.
usually say that's a good starting point, but I'm not really sure
Yes.
if you have
Yeah.
something.
Like I said, the entrepreneurial journey of these things are very different. Like I said, if you're building something for a specific kind of audience, in the mobile app world, it's huge. I mean, you cannot just do it for these things and then, okay, let me add those things. You still can do it. But I'm saying this is a slightly different way of, different market with respect to building probably a web application or something which is personalized and like a SaaS model, right?
Mhm.
There, these things could work in terms of solving one particular persona's need and all that. Like in your tribe, what we are trying to do is for startups predominantly. So that's a SaaS model. So we
Mhm.
are not looking at release having all these features for everybody and then doing it for everybody in the entire load. But then over time we wanted to reach there, but then starting is whatever we wanted to beat at is within a specific kind of audience to see how it is. And that's the model which is different in the app space. So when we can solve all the other problems effectively, why not just get there? And it's a free app, right? So it doesn't
Got it.
it's not a huge risk with respect to adding more uh, things with that.
I'm getting to see why it's a totally different mindset altogether. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you,
Thank
Varun.
you, Achal. Thank you. Hey, Kiran. Sorry, unmute.
Okay, sorry. So it's nice, a nice app, Varun. So I have one doubt whether I can make one audio in layer one and one music in layer two and merge parallelly.
Yeah. So that's the merge thing that Saurabh showed at the last. So
No,
you
one after the other. I saw which. So
so the order can be interchanged. You can
no, no,
change.
parallel to two layers can be merged. Layer one
Oh,
will be
like
one
like
music. Layer
mixing,
two,
right? Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes,
Yeah. So
parallelly.
that we have not done it yet. See, that like when we did the other stuff, we had much more things to do. But then at some point we wanted to, okay, let's close it off for now. Let's release, get it to production, and then build the other stuff in the background so that this solves predominantly all the needs. You can, you know, if somebody knows to play around with, if somebody knows what they want to get it done, they'll figure out in terms of, oh, what should I should first cut this and then probably go there and then merge these things. So there's a workaround with whatever we have so far. So probably in the next release we'll probably think about doing it.
Okay, okay. So share option is there where I can share
Yeah,
this
yeah,
record.
it's already there. Yeah.
Okay, okay, nice.
Thanks, Kiran.
Thank you.
Can I go?
Yes, Prasad.
Awesome. So I thought it was really fascinating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the last person speaking because we're running out of time, but I wanted to very quickly kind of identify all the key themes that you identified in what you were sharing. Um, the first thing that you kind of shared was, well, at least the first theme that I got was when you're launching the product, you were particularly worried about the features,
Hmm.
right? That you had. These are the features I want to launch. But once you launched, then your mindset shifted to a different game, which was how do I get engagement?
Yes.
How do I get retention? How do I create that stickiness with the app? Because clearly you created and you realize it's a very, deep insight. You realized you create a utility, right?
Yeah.
A utility is something that people use and leave, which is just like tax forms, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you look at
Yeah.
TurboTax, they
Yeah.
have a very similar business problem to yours.
Yeah.
You fill your tax forms once a year and you walk away. You don't come back to it until next year.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you create that engagement with the product? How do you create a loyalty to that product? Because if new products are coming in, you again struggle with it.
Yes.
Now, that was one theme that I got out of it, was like really thinking about it. And again, my thought is, as you, and I suspect now that you are going to, this is probably going to be the only product, not the only product you're going to do. There are more products that you'll be designing. You'll probably be thinking about this ahead of time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How do I create stickiness in my product? How
Yeah.
do I create that, how do I make sure that I'm not falling into the utility
Yes.
bucket? Right?
Yes.
So that is something that, the earlier we think about it, I think the better you are able to resolve it later on when you post launch. The
Yes.
other thing that I also got was something that was interesting, which is ownership, which was interesting because you've always been a founder. And what I got out of that was, say, when you did it as a designer, somebody told you to design a login, just design the login and do it.
Hmm.
Okay. But now as an entrepreneur, you're thinking, well, should the login even be there?
Yeah.
Right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is
Yeah.
there a purpose for, is there a larger purpose? Is there a larger game to be played there?
Yeah.
And I think that level of stepping back from that feature and saying, well, is this even right? Is there other ways to do it? How else should I do it? That is something that's really important. And again, the other aspect that I got from what you were saying was even after you launched it, you said, did this work or not? So there was always this point of self-doubt.
Yes. Yes.
Now, when you talk to designers, just pure designers, they'll say, I designed this amazing thing. They never took my thing. So I'm pissed off at you.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas you came with a completely different mindset. I launched it. Did it work or not? And if
Yes.
it didn't work, then why not?
Yes. Yes.
Right? So there was a sense of detachment from the features that you did, where when you're an entrepreneur. Whereas when you're a designer, you're attached to what you're doing and you're like, get really upset if it doesn't go. But as an entrepreneur, you're attached to the business outcome, not necessarily to the features that you've done, even if you spend 40 hours or 100 hours designing it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
The
sorry.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly what I wanted to. The reason why I want to share this session, the session is primarily for, I want to share my struggles in terms of being a UX designer. We glorify, oh, I'm a problem solver. Problem solving is like, yes, we are problem solvers. Yes, I get it. But then, is it we? I mean, over time, probably maybe I have more experience or so. I've started to detach myself very early with respect to what I design. But then there's still a dissatisfaction with respect to why this is not done, because there's no, I can't think of anything beyond a certain point of ideating, right? So then that's when all these things started to align with, when you have a strong process, systematic approach to it. Even the ideation it's surprising for me when I did the intensive program, when I did the capstone things, there are certain things which has, even if I think about it, I would have never got that solution, like the solution that I got. But then it's just the process, the beauty of the process itself gave all these outcomes. So we have to trust the process and just blindly trust it and go with it. And then absolutely detach ourselves with it, with our, I mean, and then have this sense of, how is it impacting the business? Having this sort of a mindset about what we design and how it impacts with respect to the business, that will exponentially change the way people look at you as a designer, as a UX designer. They'll probably and then I never realized I was training for a leadership program until I finished the intensive program, right? So I was just, I was never had I never had this sort of any expectation with respect out of that particular program, but realize all these things are leadership skills, which where you have to think about, different aspects of it, not just solving the problem and get excited about it and okay, I've done it. So
Right, right. Yeah. So this brings me to the next question, because I mean, or maybe let me just cap what you just said, right? So for a designer, okay, what you said was this was your evolution as an entrepreneur. But and you also said this, if as a designer you were thinking as an entrepreneur, you would have a acceleration within your career, right? And I kid you not, I've worked with some of the best designers, the best design teams in the world. And what I find interesting is the sheer number of designers who don't worry about business metrics. Oh, I launched it, but oh, it was a really cool product. But when I say, okay, what were the metrics? What did you change?
yes,
How did the user behavior migrate? What was the learnability curve for that product? Nobody can answer that.
yes,
Right?
yes,
So if you take like even some of the best design teams, you take a group of people, 100 people, and you do that, 90 of them will not be able to answer it.
right,
Right? And I'm just generalizing. I suspect 90 is a very generous number. I suspect that these numbers are more because the number of people that are truly interested in the impact that their product makes is very, very small. Right? But knowing that makes you a very strong designer in the long term. So, which brings me to the question. Okay. Now that you've launched it, now you're seeing a lot of different use cases. Okay. How have you designed the product to help you innovate faster and easier?
innovate faster and
Easier. So because the first round of, so generally the first product, the simple rule that you say, right? At least as far as if you want to be funded, right? A VC is going to say, you leave your job within 30 days, you should get your first paying customer.
right,
That is the metric that any VC is going to look at. Okay, have you got your first paying customer within 30 days of leaving your job?
right,
Then, but that doesn't mean it took you only 30 days to develop the product. It might have taken you 6 months, but you were doing that while you were working. Okay. But then the question that happens, the reason they ask you that question is because the next iteration of that product should take you 25% of the first time. So if it took you 6 months, it should
yes,
take the next iteration it should take you 25%.
yes,
Okay. So if you are now saying it's 6 months, 6 divided by 4 is what? It's about 1.25 months probably.
yes,
Okay? So it's like 1.25 months, you should be able to launch your second product. Okay. Now you still get data. You need to do 25% of the 1.25 months. So the speed of launches should increase exponentially.
right.
Right? So how have you designed your product to achieve that target?
So let me think about it in terms of see the I mean, when we are talking about, like I said, when we started, when I answered Pooja's question, right? How can you, somebody who is working around with audios, if they are smart enough, they can have this, get this thing done the way they want within whatever they have with us right now. So I'm looking at an entire cycle, like how we look at experience, like from one particular phase to the end phase for a user journey, like how we look at products in terms of bigger products in terms of a user journey from experience. So I'm just looking at this as one experience where somebody who wants to record something or like, from scratch, and then get out with a fascinating, probably, share ready, or probably make it public, sort of that level of experience. How can I how can I make that process? What are the things that is already there to help
No, no,
that?
no, Varun, you're getting me wrong. So you're still talking features. Okay.
Right.
I'm putting a business problem to you. So right now you said, hey, there are 5 different features you have.
Ah,
Okay. The first feature you're saying is I'm going to create like a layering kind of an experience, or, you might have some other, you have 5 features that you have.
right.
Okay. How have you designed your product to be able to make this decision? Because you only have a fixed amount of time, you only have fixed amount of money in your pocket, right?
Yes.
You have 5 features that you want to launch, you can only launch one.
Yes.
So how have you designed your product to make these decisions?
Oh, like how did I arrive to this to make, based
No. How are you going to do in the
on.
future?
Okay.
Because to be able to make decisions
Yeah.
is a super skill.
Yes. I mean, I think I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that in a more concrete way. It's more instinctive right now. And also it's with respect to when you're thinking about, like I said, having this sort of a mindset where will it work or not? Will it work, or this particular thing will solve or not? Will it solve the entire use case or not?
Mm.
When I spoke about the experience part of it. So based on that, probably I would decide. I don't have a concrete answer right now, but I'll probably think
Okay.
about that a bit
So
more.
this is something that you want to think.
Yeah.
Okay. And my advice would be the one thing when you're starting off, you need to focus on your community.
Yes.
Okay. Identify the community, which is coming back to what Achyut was talking about, which is identify your niche.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would argue to whatever you have said is you have not identified your niche yet.
Right.
Okay. You've created a generalized product, but now you're sensing the market. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out which part of the market, because and I would also argue that you need to monetize. Okay.
Yeah.
So in order to figure out how you're going to monetize, you need to figure out what is the value proposition. So let's say it's a movie making. That's the audience you're going after.
Yes.
Okay. Now, movie making, if you think about it, it's like, there's people who want to practice their dialogues, there's
Yes.
people who want to practice the audio, people who want to practice their dance steps, right? There's so many things that you can play with that specific audio.
Yes.
Right? Even annotating on that specific audio is a specific use case.
Yeah.
Right? So then the question is, I'm just assuming if you want to go down, right? So right now what you're doing is you're identifying all possible use cases.
Right.
But the next step you have to do is you have to
Jump
figure
in.
out what the market size of all those use cases is. Right?
Yes.
Let's say you say like movie making is the one use case that I'm going after.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what you're probably going to do is you're probably going to sign up 20 or 30 of these movie makers or do a movie guy, and you're going to say, I'm going to be your partner of choice.
Yes.
Right? You're going to put me in your movie credits for the tool.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to be your guy. I'm going to understand the whole process. I'm going to understand, because literally with audio in the movie, you can work in every workflow. Every director, every assistant director, every associate director will have to use this app. Think about it that way.
Yes.
Right? And how does that workflow go from the top to the bottom?
Yes. I think I mean, you're right in terms of I didn't have clarity right now in terms of, consuming that question and then respond to it. But then we had a discussion. I had a discussion with my co-founder. He was talking about what is the next thing that we have to do. We were thinking about the same discussion happened with him, and then he was telling me I was reaching out to. So my sample size was like, how do I get the initial push? I was just thinking about the problem solving perspective, right? Where I solved the problem for a specific persona. So let me reach to that specific group, through different schools. There are music schools out there. let me give it to them. Let me collaborate with them and have a constant feedback. And he was insisting me just go with one or not two groups and then have constant feedback with them. And what is that they achieved what they wanted and exactly, and then immediately iteratively we work on the next things.
Right.
So like you said, the interesting thing probably could be, how do we, like, the market size part of it, right? Which is the market size we have to target first to solve the problem that will probably, push us in a quicker pace in terms of reaching much more.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways you can look at it also. But again, I will leave that to you. But the other aspect that I was thinking is what kind of data are you collecting from this app,
Hmm.
right? Are you collecting how many snippets are people creating? What is the average length of snippet? What is the average length of the audio that people are listening to,
Hmm.
right? How many times are people sharing? How many times are people talking about it? What is the modality of sharing? If you understand those parts of the game,
Hmm.
okay, you are now actually understanding how you can create value propositions. Okay. So again, going back to the movie making thing, let us say movie making is an insanely collaborative kind of an environment.
Hmm.
Okay. So if you want to do that, then there is a value system to be set for. If you're a small movie maker, take it for free. But if you're large and you have many people and you want to manage the workflow of a certain job,
Yeah.
right? Think about this as this could be the Jira for the movie makers,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? So if you want to manage it that way, you're actually charging money for collaboration,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So, but you have to collect the data. If you're saying, okay, yeah, 20% of my audience is actually sharing, that's actually a data point. So
Right.
for you to say, okay, even if I charge X amount of money for, let's say, the Teams version of your tool, you make X amount of revenue,
Right. Right.
right? So that is one that you want to actually start instrumenting in your product itself.
Right.
Okay. So think about the instrumentation that your app has.
Right. Right.
Okay. How many times are people clicking? Where are people clicking? What kind of activity? So then that will also help you reorganize, reset, and all that. And that will also help you reduce the time to innovation.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, that said, I'm going to come back to your storytelling, right? Which is my favorite bitch, but I'm going to complain about it again. See, if you're telling the storytelling, right? The first, if you talk for about 45 minutes, okay, the metric that you should have in your mind is within the first 5 minutes, people should say, how did you do it?
Right. Right.
My biggest problem was I could not relate to your problem.
Right. Right.
Right? So as a designer, I was not particularly excited about what you were saying because I didn't understand what you were saying. If let's imagine a whole new storytelling, right? A
Hmm.
storyline
Yeah.
where you came in and you said, okay, I'm learning music.
Hmm.
Okay, here's a tune and I'm doing tabla, here's a tune. Okay. Now here are three different ways of listening to it. So what do I do? Now I want to master this. So I'm going to keep rewinding and playing this. Then I'm going to keep rewinding and playing this. So now let's say if I want to listen to a Zakir Hussain song or music or whatever, he's done like a 45-minute thing. And I have to keep rewinding and try to remember he did this here, this time he did this variation here. And these are like microsecond variations. How would I know what they are?
Yeah.
Right? I would never be able to catch it unless and until I knew exactly. So in a piece of paper, I'm writing all that stuff down and I'm tracking it. Right? It's a sheer waste of time. Right? Now what I've done is I've done this. So all I want to do is listen to the tabla and how he did it in this part. I just go back to that and I listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my
Now,
mind exploded now.
right? Now I'm totally in love with the problem. Like, oh wow, this is interesting.
Right. Right.
Right? Take whatever problem, demo the problem, and then now help me listen to it. And now I have learned that appreciation of the problem you're trying to solve and how complex it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And now you've done it. I'm your fan,
Yeah.
isn't it? And then you've
Okay.
identified. So this is again goes back to what is the problem? How do you know that's a problem? How did you solve it? How do you know you solved it?
Same for me. Yeah.
Right? You just apply those 4 points to that, and your pitch is going to be awesome every time, everywhere, no matter what domain you're applying it to.
Absolutely. I get it. In terms of the moment you said that, oh shit, I should have done that, it would have been much more exciting. Anyway,
Right. And that's again when you are also doing, I mean, think about your marketing collateral, because this is also something you need to be thinking about.
yeah,
It's like, okay, if I have to create a marketing collateral, like if you want to do paid ads, which I think you should do,
yeah,
right? You should invest at least about 40,000-50,000 bucks a month doing paid ads on this,
yeah,
right? So if you're doing that, well, what does your ad look like?
yeah.
You know?
Makes sense. Makes
Now, all of these stories will merge together and you'll have an amazing story at the end of it. And it's like it's a game that you're now master of.
yeah.
Cool. And that was my lesson as an entrepreneur. Now I realize, like, okay, everything I do, I have to think like, okay, how am I going to pitch it? And so all my team will tell you, Rajiv, Roshni, all these guys will tell you. I'm always talking to them about what is the pitch. And they're like,
Yeah.
why does this guy keep harassing us about the pitch?
No, it is everything. I realized that very long back, but I think I'm underprepared probably in terms of not thinking much. I think we discussed about. I think myself and Saurav discussed about it. But I thought this is fascinating. Whatever you said would have done justice. Thank you. But I'll try to do that next time somewhere. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. And I'm going to play with the tool and I'll let you know what I think.
Yes, please
Go
anticipate.
ahead, Achyut.
So just one last suggestion. It's a question, so you can suggest us. Please tell us where we can start off understanding this business side of things from early point on, so that we don't miss out.
Forget that. You're working in your company, right? Talk to
Yeah.
your clients and say, well, why are you making me do this? How do you know you're going to succeed? Right? What is your metric for success? Maybe don't ask, how do you know you will succeed? Because that can get depressed. But you want to ask them like, okay, what is your metric for success?
Yeah.
Right? And then once you understand that, and again, this is a very interesting interview question as well. When you're interviewing for jobs, okay, the same metric, like when somebody's asking, it's like, okay, well, why are you trying to hire for this role? What specific problem, if this role, would this role solve for you?
Hmm.
Okay. And why is that problem important for you? If you try to understand that, even when you're doing a job interview or when you're doing like a product delivery or whatever, you understand that your game is completely different.
Got it.
Okay. And
Those,
you don't have to worry about metrics like, okay, this is how I applied. There is a formula. But right now, don't worry about the formula. Don't worry about all that. Just worry about extracting that core need. Okay. Because there is no class that will teach you how to extract that core need. If you can extract that core need, the rest of the stuff is easy.
Sir, are these like the PMs do product analytics? Those numbers.
No, most PMs don't even know why they're doing it.
Okay. Okay.
Right? I mean, this is the same problem. I'm not just saying designers don't understand business. Even PMs
Yeah.
don't understand business. Right? Program managers don't understand business. It's literally like an elephant because the product itself is so huge. It is like an elephant. And so, if somebody's touching the ear, somebody's touching the leg. And so everybody has got different imagination of what that product is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But ultimately, your ultimate truth lies with the senior most responsible person. Okay. So, which is the general manager of that product. That guy is the guy that is really worried about it, right? That guy, somebody would have told him, his CEO would have told him, listen, you need to increase the amount of revenue. Now, that guy would have thought, if I want to increase the amount of revenue, I have to increase the number of users, I have to increase the number of whatever, blah, 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 these 4 metrics. He would have given the user problem to somebody, he would have given some other problem to somebody else, and everybody is working on different problems, right? But as a designer, if you understand the whole picture, you are in a very competitive position.
So would that say, sir, for example, there is a very key feature in a product that needs to have as much adoption as possible, so that it will give back to the business quickly, something like that on those lines?
No. So generally, when you're looking at metrics, there are fixed number of metrics.
Yeah.
Right? The first one is understandability. Then there is usability. Then there is learnability. Okay. then there is retention, then there is acquisition, right? So retention, acquisition, those are marketing terminologies.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is virality,
Mm.
right? So there are different kinds of metrics that you can focus on. Okay. If you want your product to be viral, you will think about it in a slightly different perspective than if you say, I want my product to be learnable.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're creating Gmail,
Okay.
if you're creating a B2C product, you want it to be viral.
Right.
Virality is more important, right?
Mm.
Whereas if you're creating a B2B product, right, that is where understandability, learnability, and usability is much more important.
Right.
What's the reason? Because in a B2B product, your CEO will make the decision to buy the product, but the person who's buying it and the person who's using it is two different people.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Whereas when you're looking at a B2C space, the person who's buying it is the same person who's using it. Right? So virality is the next level. You cannot be viral until you love the product, right? If I don't love the product, I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a difference. You get it? So all those metrics again are easy to learn. Once you understand how to get to the core problem, everything else is easy. Okay. But that core product is what you need to focus on. Okay. And there's Rajiv has given the AA, RRR framework. And again, my advice is don't worry about frameworks right now. Worry about what is the core problem, identifying the problem. Once you identify the problem, all these frameworks will come in. Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks to you
Awesome.
all.
Thank you, Varun, and congratulations on your launch.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I'm looking forward to playing with it. And I have a good feeling about your product. So I think it's an interesting product, and it feels very simple and intuitive. So yeah. But
Thank you.
we
I have to improve my storytelling for sure.
yes.
And I love that. Whatever you said, I love that. I'm going to apply next time I'm pitching to something. But I'm going to probably sing
Awesome.
and show something.
Awesome.
Thanks, Prasad.
Cool.
Thank
Chalo then.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.
Right. Bye.
Bye.